Let's talk about which genre of photography is the easiest to make good money in. And let me start with a bit of history on this first. I received a phone call, and first of all, don't phone me about this. It was a question, someone phoned me to ask it. And yes, don't phone me. There is there's a Tin House Studios website where you can contact me via email. Do that. Do not call me in the workday. It'll make me pissy. I have work to do. Like, I enjoy the conversation, everything else, but like don't encroach on my time. Don't turn up at the studio. Don't phone me. I've had a few people doing it recently. It's not cool. And it leaves me feeling like I've got to be a dick. So I've got to cut you short because I'm busy with work. But you've obviously made the effort to come and anyway, it's a tricky thing, but please don't, because I'm stacked. And I will have a breakdown at some point if I don't get all this work done. However, their question was valid, and I gave them a bit of a rubbish answer over the phone because I was a bit annoyed that someone had phoned me. But I want to tackle that question here. And they phoned me up. They're like, yeah, I've got a studio, and I want to know what is the easiest way to make lots of money. It was basically the gist of the question. And there's some problems with this question, but let's look at that. So photography is an incredibly competitive field. Now, the reason it's incredibly competitive is twofold, perhaps three. One is that it is lucrative at the high end and there's money to be made. And wherever there's money to be made, there's competition. Two is that it's a very cool job. Like, let's not beat around the bush. I get to hang out in this studio all day with my cat. I get to meet amazingly talented, creative people. I get to socialize with people who are far more intelligent than I am. And perhaps my natural social circle would have been. And we get cool toys, we get gadgets and like stuff. It's good. It's a good life. My biggest fear, the thing that keeps me up at night is losing this and having to go back to work. It is a cool, fun job. It is well paid. And I think the third element is that there's a low entry requirement. Like, to start doing this, it's very easy. You just get a camera and take a picture. But of course, getting to that high end where you're making good money is not so easy. And I can tell you from personal experience and my receding hairline plus grey hair. Someone asked me if it was a filter. It is not. It was a stressful week. But it is incredibly hard. There are some incredibly dark times within this. So I've been doing this since 2009. And there have been tears. There have been like points where I've just gone, oh, f*** it. This is absolutely horrific. I'm not doing this. I can't cope. I can't. The rejection rate is just too unbearable, or whatever it may be. Or you've had, like, last month I had a shocker and we had loads of jobs cancelled for various reasons out of my hands. I was like, great, for no fault of my own, I've lost a load of money. And that's what the career's like. And before we get to what is lucrative, regardless of how lucrative it is, if you do not love it, and I mean absolutely love what you're doing, you won't get to that point. If there is any doubt in your mind about what you're doing, you won't get to that point because it is so hard. Now, of course, if you go, yes, this is what I want to do, I love this, this is all I live, breathe, eat, sleep, photography, then that's great. That is what you should do, but it will be hard. Now, in terms of making the most money possible, when you get to the level where you can make good money and you can charge good amounts of money, there's only one thing you can do to make the most money possible, and that is what you love. Because of the way the industry is, it's not a case of going, can you take a sharp photograph of this with 20 lights? No one gives a flying. What they want to know is, do you understand this subject? Do you understand this style? Do you understand what this is? Do you really, truly understand it? And the only way to do that is to go down a rabbit hole and end up in some like deep, dark depths or something where you know you're doing it right if lots of people don't get it. Which sounds ridiculous, but when people look at your work and go, that's not what I thought food photography was, that's good. That means you found your thing. You found your little crevice in the world. Well, that's not what I thought fashion photography was. Whatever it may be, that is the good sign. That is when you're going in the right direction. The only way to get to that high-paying work is to find out what it is you love. Now, there are some genres of photography which are very well paying. Now, I've not checked the stats on these, but these are from what I know. Beverage photography, alcoholic drinks pay well. Watch photography. Shooting watches, if you're a New York photographer, is highly lucrative. There's two of them over there, and they've been those two for, since I started in 2009, they were already well established. One of them paid to have a large format digital back made because it'd save them money on Polaroids. That's how much money they make. But there's only 2 of them. There's only room for 2 of them, and you've got to knock them off their perch. And to do that, you have got to love it. Like, really love it. Alcoholic beverage photography, there's a lot of money in alcoholic drinks. Shooting those campaigns, the usage is good, the budgets are good. Shooting drinks is incredibly lucrative, but you've got to love it. You've really got to love it. And I'm not talking about copying some YouTube video on how to do a gradation across a bottle, or like how to do a 20 light setup on a bottle of whiskey, or those horrific wine bottle photos I keep seeing of red wine on a black background. That is not it. You need to find your voice, and you need to push forward, and you need to spend years and years and years developing whatever it is that you are. There is no quick, I'm going to learn how to do this style of picture like this person does and move forward. That's not a thing. It's just not a thing. You can't just go, oh, well, Scott makes good money doing drinks pictures, we're going to copy his drinks portfolio. Because all you're going to have is a worse version of what I've done. Because for you to do a better version of what I've done, you have to understand what I understand, and I've been spending since 2009 understanding it. And if you've only just seen it and copied it, you've not had the time. It's not that you couldn't understand it. Of course you could. You could understand it better than I could, but you have to put in the time. You have to put in the hours, and you have to love it. You really have to love it. There has to be nothing else that you want to do. You can't be sat there going, oh, I don't know, do I want to do some landscapes today, a bit of portraiture, a bit of headshot, a bit of product, a bit of... If you're at that point, you've not even narrowed down what you are yet, which is fine. You don't have to have narrowed down what you are yet. It might still, like, when I started out, I shot weddings, I shot bands, I shot portraits and headshots. I did still life product photography for Amazon and stuff like that. You do everything. You have to. And from that, you slowly narrow it down until you go, oh, this is me. And now if someone asks, what do you do? I do bold and graphic still life images. That's me. Bold, graphic, still life. Doesn't move. It's bold and it's graphic. That's what I do. If you want that crisp, clean, sharp look, slightly... It's not gourmet food look. It's definitely not like the Jamie Oliver look of food photography. It's not that world, you know. But if you want this, here I am. This is what I do. Now, you might need to find you will need to find your own thing, because that's how it works. Everyone has to have their own little thing. And even if you have a very similar style to me, it needs to have your own twist on it, your own take of it. Mine's all about junk food, grubby things we ate as children, sweets, you know, that sort of like nostalgia. And yours might be gourmet food shot in my like bold and graphic style, but like it has to be you, and it has to come from you. And that is how you make the good money. That is how you make the most money possible for photography. Now, are some genres easier to break into than others? Absolutely. Headshot photography is easy to break into. Is it easy to make a lot of money in? No. Product photography, easy to break into. Is it easy to make the big money shooting product? And firstly, no, but also, if you think you want to do it because it's easy, also no. So it's not just that those two are easy to get into, which should be like, oh yes, we'll go to that, it's easy. But if you don't love it, you've still got that battle. You can't make a living doing £200 headshots every day because there's not enough volume unless you're in New York and London, at which point, if you're a £200 photographer, you need to be charging a lot more to actually be getting the clients who can afford headshots, because there's these like chasms in budgets where no one can afford that amount. They can afford next to nothing or lots. And, you know, and there's a lot of stuff which goes into that. Wedding photography is easy to break into once you've done the first few. It's not as easy as headshots. You can get 5 mates around, shoot a portfolio and get going, but it's not that hard to get into. Fashion photography, nigh on impossible. If you're not in a major capital city, if you're not in London, New York, Paris, Milan, I wouldn't know where to start. I really wouldn't. Landscape photography, incredibly easy to get into, incredibly hard to make money from, and good money from. Not impossible, but incredibly hard. And whenever I have a landscape photographer as one of my one-to-one clients, we always sort of look down the path of selling to tourist boards, selling to lifestyle brands. Like, it's great, you can take these lovely landscapes, but let's give them some purpose. Let's give them some commercial purpose, more to the point. Street photography, incredibly easy to get into. Go outside with your phone, start doing street photography. Make money from it. One of the hardest ways to make money from photography is street photography. It is nigh on impossible, and probably won't be whilst you're alive if you do manage to do so. So it's a hard way to make a living. It is a hard way to make a good living. And the only advice I could give you, if you're thinking what's the best way to make money from my camera, is to do what you love. and just stick the course. And we're going to talk about more about this in a different video, but if you have any questions about this topic, let me know in the comments below. I'll speak to you all soon. Bye-bye.